I've got a little exercise that I want many of you Negroes to go out and participate in. Now, I know a lot of you guys don't get up early in the morning to, take a look at this pattern, but I want you to get up one early morning and just take a look at something. Get up early in the morning and, take a look at the bus stop, take a look at the train station, and tell me, who do you see primarily going to work? And from what I've seen, from my own observations, all I see primarily going to work in your Afro American Negro communities are Afro American Negro women. And who do I see standing outside of the foreign owned stores or standing outside of the apartment buildings for the most part, or sitting in the apartments for the most part? You see mostly Afro American Negro men. And this is in black communities in many parts of the country, especially inner city neighborhoods like the one I live in. This is the pattern that you see. And when I look at this pattern, I can understand why the economy of these Afro American Negro communities are the poorest in the world. Because whoever controls the dollars in the community controls the economy. And when I look at the flow of those dollars and who they're going to, I understand why your Afro American Negro community is the poorest in the world. You have your Afro American Negro woman working and controlling most of the dollars in the Afro American Negro community, and your Afro American Negro man not contributing anything at all in any way, shape, or form. And because you have your Afro American Negro woman getting most of the jobs in the Afro American Negro community, most 97 or 98% of the dollars flow right out of your Afro American Negro community, right back into the hands of your white liberal, your Negro pastor, and your foreign store owners. But most Afro American Negroes, because they grew up, over the last 40 years, learning this dysfunctional economic model, have never taken a long, hard look at it to understand why their community is the poorest in the world. I unfortunately have had a chance to really take a look at it, and I understand it now why the Afro American Negro community is the poorest in the world. Because again, your Afro American Negro woman is just not focused on building an economy for a community. She is a consumer, and her whole station in life is, naturally meant towards taking care of the home and managing the household. So her whole station in life is about buying products, consuming products, and, chasing after social currency. She is not a natural builder. She is not a natural creator. And her interests are not about, building businesses, maintaining economic infrastructure, or protecting and preserving a community. Her whole thing is about consumption, which is why she will go out and, even have with $100,000 a year job, go out here and buy thousands of dollars in hair weaves and Gucci bags and, Jimmy Choo shoes and designer suits, rather than take money and invest it in things like property or commercial property, or creating a product or a side business for herself. Everything that she does is about, again, taking consumption, and consumption is not production. Producer based economy is about providing goods and services that bring money to the producer while selling products and services to other people. And when you look at the African American economy and how it was undermined by your white liberals 40, 50 years ago with with the establishment of this welfare state and these white liberal policies, you can see what happened to the flow of the dollars in the African American community. And when I look at, who gets most of the jobs, and it's mostly African American women, I believe that is intentional because, whenever they hire your Afro American woman, they know that, again, 97, 98% of those dollars that she gets in her paycheck, are pretty much going to come back to the liberals and the foreigners who own businesses, and they're going to be able to send their kids to private schools. They're going to be able to, maintain their businesses. They're going to be able to go on vacation. Meanwhile, this African American Negro woman is still struggling to make ends meet, even with multiple degrees and, six-figure jobs. I mean, what's really sad is that the Afro-American Negro woman is the most educated woman in the world, but unfortunately, she cannot apply any of the knowledge that she's been given towards enriching herself or enriching her community or building that strong economy. But because, again, she is not naturally wired to do that. God designed her to be the helpmeet and the support to the man, not to be the leader. And when she's placed in a leadership position, the entire community, just falls off the rails. And that's what we've seen, over the last 40, 50 years. I mean, even with all these education and all these degrees, they just don't know how to build and maintain an economy or how economic power leads to political power. Because you never see, Negro women talking about, making sure that their tax dollars wind up flowing into their community for their public schools so that they can have services for their children. You never see them talking about, um, making sure that their libraries are open so their kids have a place to get books. You never see them talking about maintaining, their roads and their sewers and things like that, or maintaining municipal policy. They don't want to talk about anything like that because they're too busy going out shopping for Prada bags and Gucci bags and all this other stuff instead of thinking about, how the money that they spend um, is invested back into themselves and into their community. They just don't have, a business oriented way of thinking. All they have is a consumer oriented way of thinking. And that's just naturally how many of your Afro American Negro women think. They don't think about economics, they don't think about business, they don't think about, infrastructure. They take those things for granted, and that's why your communities wind up turning into hoods and cesspools instead of, places where a community where people, all live together and see a value in it. And I look at, you know, the whole job market and how it's often, they'll make every effort to hire this Afro American Negro woman over black men. And I believe that is intentional. I believe it's deliberate. And I believe it's a form of economic discrimination that keeps the black community poor because if you have, African American men working and controlling the dollars, then it's going to change the flow of those dollars. If there's a large percentage of African American men, you know, out here working and they're talking about building or talking about creating, businesses or creating side businesses or talking about buying commercial property or talking about buying franchises like McDonald's and Dunkin' Donuts or talking about, some sort of startup venture in addition to their job. That means competition for this white liberal and his cohorts, like these foreign store owners and this Negro pastor. The Negro pastor really does not want the African American man to return to take control over the economy. And the reason why he doesn't want the black man to take over the economy is because he knows he's not going to get, the 10% off the top off this Afro American Negro woman's salary. I mean, he knows that, this woman is emotional, she is gullible, and she believes, the Malachi 3:10 part of the Old Testament, but not the New Testament part where Jesus says you give as you are able to give. And, if the man is in charge, he's going to do what Jesus said, which is give as you are able to give, not the Malachi 3:10, the tithes and the storehouse, and giving you 10% off the top. He's going to give the church as he is able to give. This is why the Negro pastor doesn't want the black man in the church, and he also doesn't want the black man in the church because black man coming to the church means he's going to start checking this pastor. He's going to start checking the policies, and he's really going to start regulating in that church, and getting it into the order of God and making sure it follows God's natural order, and not the order of the Negro pastor and the white liberal, which is pretty much he's using the church as his own cash cow and as a way to, as his own, personal brothel. But the whole thing is that I want you guys to go outside, take a long, hard look at your community, take a long, hard look at who is working. And I believe, again, this is by design. When you see most of these Afro-American Negro women in jobs, these Afro-American Negro women can get a job faster than a man. These Afro-American Negro women can stay on the job even if they're late, they have a nasty attitude, if they're unprofessional, if they do poor quality work, they can stay on the job for years and years and years and years. But your African American man, I mean, he can come on a job, he makes one mistake, and they're talking about firing him, or he's late once, and they're talking about firing him. And again, I believe that goes right back to your economics and, how economies work. Because as long as the female controls the dollars in the African American community, you know, the African American community, 98% of the dollars flow right back out of it, right in the hands of foreigners and white liberals and the whole and others, and the political policies of the African American community benefit foreigners, white liberals, and this cabal, which benefit from keeping this African American woman single and keeping this African American woman dysfunctional. That's all I have to say for this video. You can learn more about economics in my book, Why 70% of Black Women Are Single. You can click the link in the description box. Again, that's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.